I'm Audley Scott, and you're listening to Flashpoint Radio. Rise and shine, your morning boost of inspiration, news, and fun. With Mikey G, Lady Elise, and Coralie Karen, the unmistakable combination, synergized to navigate.
Welcome back to the breakfast hour. It is indeed a well lit morning. You know, I listened to the devotional just now, Lady Elise, and I'm telling you, every time I listen to Susan's devotional, it brings me to another level in my understanding. Even when we already know the information, it just simplifies it and it brings it back to focus and allow us to see the things that sometimes we so easily miss. You know, when she says a Christian cannot be a light, that is, Christians without doing anything in the world today. You know how busy most Christians are. They are unable to even think about anyone else apart from themselves. And you start to wonder if you have lost your purpose, you know?
The point is, sometimes and I had a conversation over the weekend, and it was with someone that normally walks in the morning, and I am a walker as well. That's a part of my self-care routine. And he mentioned to me that he practices mindfulness, and that means that he has to declutter his mind and certainly find his way amid all the chaos. And though the noise is so loud, plotting your way and finding your journey, you know, it's something that you have to be deliberate with. I don't know what kind of weekend you have had, but I'm certainly happy that you took the time out to join us for this episode of the Breakfast Hour. You know, it has been a wonderful weekend. It's a rainy morning right here in Georgetown, Grand Cayman, but the rains are certainly a blessing. And of course, we sometimes have sunshine, sometimes we have rain, similar experiences in our lives, ups and downs.
Yes.
But each experience we can learn from, and we can become better persons, better individuals, better neighbors, better brothers, better sisters. And so it's a wonderful day to be alive, and we are certainly thankful for that.
You know, Lady Elise, you know, having said that, you know, we know that while we are so busy sometimes, and we constantly, seemingly, undoubtedly, don't even understand our purpose at some point. Sometimes we simply forget why we are here. I can tell you, it's not a simple thing sometimes for some persons to navigate that journey. The understanding that we have these days is that everybody's in the same rat race, and we are running the same race. We are not separate anymore, and we don't find that divide that is necessary to kind of not make you exclusive, but separatedly significant for a purpose to reach others who are not in the same place yet, or the right place yet, and I don't want to think that persons are saying to become one thing means that you're going to be superior or feel yourself better than, but you must not find yourself feeling as if you are less than in the same place. So when the world shows a narrative that because of who you are not at the height of where some people are, you must let them know that they are not at the height of where you are, because they don't understand what height looks like. I watched my friend climb a coconut tree yesterday.
You watched yourself. You have to slow down.
No. I said I watched someone climb a coconut tree yesterday,
You climbed a coconut tree?
I watched someone climb the coconut tree yesterday. I did say I watched someone climb a coconut tree yesterday.
Sorry, sometimes the ears are lazy.
Right. And so by watching that,
Yes.
climbing the coconut tree, and I looked up, I remember my days when I used to do that. I no longer want to do it. You know? But sometimes we feel that where we are in life, we are at the pinnacle of it. But then there's a coconut tree somewhere that is much higher. You know?
I appreciate the fact that we learn so many lessons just from the simple experiences around us. So you would have seen and recall the days when you used to climb it. Well, you're not interested in climbing the coconut tree anymore.
No, I'm not interested in climbing the coconut tree.
Not interested. And so that it is. Life is dynamic. And so I want to welcome all the listeners and viewers joining us on all our social media platforms. We want to welcome our brand new subscribers, over 2,000 and climbing. We really do appreciate you. Thanks for making Flashpoint Media your choice. And we plan to do even more innovative programs, more interesting. Of course, coming up this Thursday, we're going to be keeping it real. We are going to be talking, about current issues, current events, the things that are touching our lives, and we're going to just have a candid talk. So you got to tune into Flashpoint for all the things that are happening. Now, on Monday, we generally kind of feature what's happening in our world, and part of that feature is to pick some news item that may have had a profound effect on our lives, and certainly one such news item.
And some of the things, Lady Elise, is that not some of the things that some of the major news network would want to carry,
Yes.
or TV programming may want to take as a program, or say it makes sense or it is important. But we want to tell you that the things that seemingly so not important are sometimes the most important of them all. Oh, this morning, of course, we want to share this information with you and allow you to, get an insight on some stuff that you might not know about and things that you might have missed. So, having said that, Lady Elise, over to you.
Yes, let's share this one with you.
To talk about what are the ramifications now, what happened during Francis' life and his agenda. Has that moved closer to what the Bible prophecies foretell? But maybe we should start by explaining something that very interesting happened the day that we got this news. We were in Brazil, as Pastor Ross said, and through some miraculous providential circumstances, we won't really go into all the details because it would take too much time. The fifth largest TV network in Brazil is Brazil Red Television. You see it on the screen there. Brazil is a country with 75%, I think, is Catholic, and it is the largest Catholic population in the world. More than Mexico, more than the Philippines, certainly more than Europe. They invited us. They heard we were in the country. They knew about Amazing Facts. They invited us after the report on the death of the Pope to be on for, we thought, 5 minutes. It ended up taking the rest of the program. And I was, of course, speaking English. The commentator, news anchor, is known all over the country, Hermano Henning. And we had our Amazing Facts Brazil director helping translate. And he's asking, what's Amazing Facts? What's your testimony? Why did you become an Adventist? What's the relevance of revelation and prophecy? I mean, I just was thunderstruck that here an Adventist pastor was on this national program in the largest Catholic country, and he was asking what I thought about the Pope and these events, and I tried to be as gracious as possible, but he was so intrigued, he didn't take anything else in the other segments in the program. He just kept us on through the end. And the amazing thing, and some people saw my Facebook post on this, I don't speak Portuguese. I speak a little Spanish. But we were speaking through a translator, and at some point in the program, I suddenly understood everything the anchor was saying and everything the translator was saying. And while I'm sitting there, I'm going, what's going on, Lord? I understand them. And then after the program, I wonder, is this still working? And I didn't understand anymore. I didn't have the gift of tongues, but for a little while, I had the gift of hearing. And I've never had that happen like that before. And so that was just, you had to be there. It was really amazing.
You know, Pastor, it was interesting. I was actually watching it live as this took place. And you could tell the news anchor, this is just regular evening news. And
Prime time.
Come in, primetime news. And the anchor was, asking in Portuguese, but eventually he got so into what you were sharing in your story and the different things. He started speaking in English to you.
Yeah.
And our translator had to start translating it in Portuguese. So
for the listeners.
He just got carried away. So it was really just an incredible opportunity.
And then he was asking about Amazing Facts Brazil, and he put the lower third up. They didn't ask us for it. They found it. They put it up. And so they're advertising all over Brazil, Amazing Facts Brazil.
That was amazing.
The day the Pope died after the Pope report, which is very interesting. So, that's just something that help us realize the Lord is at work. He's wanting to get the message out, and we were able to recommend some books. As our friends know, Pope Francis passed away Monday. They just sealed the coffin today. As we speak, in a few hours, the funeral will begin. Leaders from around the world, the top leaders from around the world are going to be there. And it's going to be a pretty spectacular event. I'll be in church preaching. We're going to be talking about our mission report in the Dominican Republic for anyone that wants to see that. That'll be on. And one of the reasons I think it's important for us to look at the chapter of Francis' influence is it says in Revelation chapter 13, verse 3, speaking of the beast's power, it says, I saw one of his heads as if it had been wounded, mortally wounded, and his deadly wound was healed. And all the world marveled and followed the beast. Now, just to give a little background, I think most traditional Protestants believe that this first beast in Revelation 13 is the Catholic Church. It's the same power that you find in Revelation chapter 17. A woman sits among seven hills of Rome, got the golden cup in her hand, jewels and pearl, scarlet and purple, the color of the bishops and the priests and or the cardinals, I should say. And the fact that this first beast represents the Catholic Church, and they had a deadly wound, they started in power when they were given an army in 538 AD. That lasted almost uninterrupted for 1,260 years. And then the beast was wounded. Now, it's interesting, if you look at like what Martin Luther says, he says that he had no question but that, and Luther was a priest, Catholic priest, he believed that the office of the Pope, Pope Francis may have been a very kind man, by all outward appearances he was, but the office that they're held, where they put themselves in the place of God, the Protestant reformers, you can look at Luther's, from his works here, it says, the vicar is in the place of an absent chief. What is such a vicar but Antichrist? I know and am certain that the papacy is the kingdom of Babylon, spoken of in Revelation 13. And then Jan Hus, who was martyred because of his faith, again a priest, who identified the office of the papacy and the Pope as Antichrist. The Pope is the true Antichrist, of whom it is written that he sits in the temple of God among the people where Christ is worshipped. And I think you've got that there. If it's 2 Thessalonians
yes.
chapter 2.
We find that actually in 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3 and 4, where it says, let no one deceive you by any means, for that day will not come, unless there is a falling away first, and the man of sin is revealed, the son of perdition, who opposes and exalts himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped, so that he sits as God in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God.
Now, friends that are watching right now, please listen carefully. A lot of dear Protestant believers, evangelicals, think this verse means that the Jewish temple must be rebuilt. When it says he sits in the temple of God, it's talking about he sits over the spiritual temple of God. The Bible says, you, the church, are the temple of the Holy Spirit. We are living stones. Christ is the cornerstone. It's using that language that Paul used. So it's saying that this power would sit over. See, he's sitting in the middle, and you look at St. Peter's, And not only Jan Hus, but look at what Calvin says. You know, most Baptists and Calvinistic believers believe in Calvin. Calvin says, Daniel and Paul had predicted that Antichrist would sit in the temple of God. We affirm him to be the Pope. Some persons think us too severe and censorious when we call the Roman pontiff Antichrist. That means the position. It's not saying the person's a monster. It means that office of saying, I am the vicar between God and man, because that's Christ's position. That's the Holy Spirit's position as the intercessor. And then you can look at what Roger Williams, First Baptist pastor in North America, and we'll talk about him later too. He said, he spoke as the Pope, as the pretended vicar of Christ on earth, who sits as God over the temple of God, exalting himself not only above all that is called God, but over the souls and the consciences of all his vassals, yea, over the Spirit. Now don't change slides yet. Go back to that slide. I want everyone to see Pope Francis now is sitting on his high throne between two angels. These are like the angels on the ark. And the Shekinah glory of God was between these two angels. In Isaiah 6, God is enthroned between these two seraphim. This is a man sitting in the temple of God showing himself that he is God. He may just be going through traditions as far as he's concerned. But the symbolism here and what the church officially teaches can't be missed. And Williams goes on, over the Holy Spirit, yea, over God himself, speaking against the things, God of heaven, thinking to change times and laws. Well, Sabbath is one example of that. They say they changed it from the first day to the seventh day. But he is the son of perdition. Now that ended in the church had almost uninterrupted sway until 1798, when Napoleon's general, murder of a Frenchman in Rome, gave them the excuse to enter the holy city. He arrested the Pope. He was carried off, died in exile. And you can read here, and this is Encyclopedia Americana, 1941 edition. He, Berthier, made his entrance into Rome, abolished the papal government. They received a deadly wound and established a secular one. And it looked like they had lost their international influence. But beginning with Mussolini, is it 1928?
1929.
29. They had the pact where the Vatican again became an independent state. Mm-hmm. The Vatican is a country, technically. The Pope is the king or the sovereign there. And U.S. and other countries send ambassadors to the Vatican because the Pope is the supreme ruler over 1.4 billion people on the planet, Catholics. Well, lovely people. I expect to see many of them in heaven, but the system has departed from the original plan. Now, it says this deadly wound would be healed. I want our friends to notice. Vatican News, March 13, 2013. In the first interview, Pope Francis outlined his vision for the church, saying, the thing the church needs most today is the ability to heal the wounds and to warm the hearts of the faithful. It needs nearness, proximity. I see the church as a field hospital after battle. It's useless to look seriously at an injured person if he is talking about high cholesterol or the level of his blood sugars. You have to heal the wounds. Then you can talk about everything else. Heal the wounds, heal the wounds. And you have to start from the ground up. His whole ministry, and matter of fact, one of the last public letters the Pope wrote a month ago, he used the same language. It says, many steps have been taken in these decades to heal the wounds of centuries and millennia. And actually, the message was, Jesus reveals the heart of God. He heals our wounds so we can love each other as brothers. He wrote in one of his final messages, and that was just March, a little less than a month ago. So his ministry, and the reason we're focusing on this is Francis accomplished a tremendous amount in trying to bring the Christian church back. All Christians used to be under the papacy, with the exception of Hussites and Waldenses and a few others. And then you had the Protestant Reformation. There's a great wound through the sword, the word, and they're trying to reunite. And he made incredible, Herculean efforts to do that. Here's a picture of Pope Francis with the Archbishop of Canterbury. During the time of Henry VIII, they split off. And then here you have they celebrated in 2016 the end of the Reformation by reuniting on the 500th anniversary, reuniting with the Lutherans, Lutheran leaders ask forgiveness of Rome. And if you read all that report, Martin Luther would probably be spinning in his grave if he could read what happened then. The Pope showed a lot more openness to women's involvement in clergy, though he never did go along with ordaining women priests. He put more women in charge of church management and made a lot of changes there. Francis met with Bartholomew, who is the leader of the Orthodox Church, and calling for Francis and Bartholomew issued resounding historic calls for church reunification, healing the wound. This is the language he used. Pope Francis and the Greek Orthodox Archbishop, December 16, 2022, seeking to reconcile. Here's one more historic meeting. First time, the Patriarch Kirill of the Russian Orthodox, and he's met with the Coptic church leaders. And here, and Pastor Ross, you sent me some pictures I failed to drop into the presentation, but here you have him on all the religions of the world basically coming together, including Islam.
That's right. He kind of focused on some major religions. Of course, Protestantism, represented by the Lutheran Church, and you touched on that. Then you've got the Eastern Orthodox churches. He's reaching out to them. But he's also been reaching out to Muslim countries. He did tours in Muslim countries. He signed a pact, an agreement with Muslim countries that they're not going to use religion as an excuse for war or violence. Very interesting. He's also reaching out to the Eastern religions like Buddhism, Hinduism,
the Buddhists on the screen,
starting to connect with all religions, which is very interesting because according to Revelation chapter 13, it says all the world wonders after the beast.
Yeah, and he made incredible headway in doing this. And he was in Egypt, Libya, United Arab Emirates, Israel, went to the trying to reconcile with Jewish leaders. And then in 2015, America was largely people fleeing religious persecution, and there's a lot of animosity between Protestants and Catholics, and some Protestants were very cruel, actually, to the Catholics that came across the ocean. But when you saw those images of the Vatican flag and the U.S. flag flying in front of the great obelisk of the Washington Monument, of course, there's a big obelisk in front of the Vatican, too. You and I were there, 2 years ago or a year ago, I forget. Yeah. Time passes. And then he went from there, he addressed a joint session of Congress, first time any pope has done that. Went to the United Nations. He went to New York, held a mass in 3 places where our government was started. Philadelphia, our first capital was New York. He went to New York City, Washington, D.C., held a mass in all those places. Record crowds, standing ovations, and it just reminds us of, and all the world wondered. And I think there's even some, just the video footage that you see of those meetings where just the throngs of people were following the Pope. And even though he had to negotiate a lot of problems, there were a number of sex scandals that hit the headlines. They never really turned against Francis during that time. They felt like he was still a good Pope, a little more welcoming of the gays in the Catholic Church, and conservative Catholics were concerned that he was being a little too open and changing too many traditions. But so we've got a new chapter, and people are wondering what is coming next. Not only did he meet with the Lutherans, meaning you've got the Lutherans in Europe, but evangelicals. And I think many remember we did a video about this years ago that kind of went viral, when Tony Palmer was at Kenneth Copeland's church saying the protest is over. And then here's a picture where they were invited to the Vatican, and you've got Kenneth Copeland. Tony Palmer died tragically in a motorcycle accident after that. And James Roberson and his wife and other evangelical leaders. Here he is with Rick Warren, and he's met with Joel Osteen, and the list goes on. But he was the great wound healer. He was trying to heal the rift between the Protestants, Catholics, and forge unity with other world religions. And through all of this, when people said we need a spiritual head in the world, folks looked to the papacy for that person that would be the most likely spiritual head.
It's interesting. As there with the different.
Yes. Wow. information that we want to bring to you this morning. A wealth of information, so many topics, so many points of views.
So we need to just remind our listeners, you're listening to the Breakfast Hour. On Monday, we have a feature, What's Happening in Our World. And this morning we highlighted 1 week ago we would have lost the Pope. And of course, that was news all throughout last week. And so we decided to share what are the implications beyond Rome and beyond the Catholic Church and to the world as well.
You know, when he touched on the end of Protestantism.
Yes.
End of Protestantism. And many persons are asking, what is Protestantism? They have no clue what these things are. And we're not talking about people who are regular people, you know. We're talking about people who are within certain organizations that should know, you know, that are people who study the prophecy and study the word. They don't even know what that means. And even when this particular this event took place, they were not even aware that it was even happening, because they didn't know the significance of it, because they stopped studying prophecy. And you start to wonder about these things. You know, what he also touched on the idea, we are talking about, you know, not only female priest, but he didn't say that, but he talked about gay priest. You know, they were looking at these things where our gay personnel who would be clergy, and these are things that he was more welcoming to. And you know, what we found is that we have a lot of female bishops. You don't know that women can't. It's like the priest is a man, and for some unknown reason, this has been a thing that now we have been so clouded by the ideologies that I don't know. I don't even want to say it. I just want to leave it. I just want to leave that.
Yes, you have to save that for another time.
I don't want to go down that rabbit hole there.
I know you don't want to go down that rabbit hole. And so, of course, I want to also take the opportunity to let our listeners know that there are other things that are happening in our world today. And so just want to share with you the national days, just a few things that are happening around the world. It's National Superhero Day, Save the Frogs Day. I know there are persons who are scared of frogs, but I have learned that they are a good part of our environment. Did you know that, Mikey G?
The frogs are a good part of our environment.
Yeah.
I know what they are for.
Did you know?
Yes, they scare women folks all the way across. If you want to if you're having a problem with, many of you guys, I'm talking to you now. You just put a frog in the house, the lady will not come back. Promise you. Unless you have one of those women who are a frog killer, then you have another problem.
Why are frogs important? And why,
ladies, come on. I just want to stop you for a minute. Let that sink in. Let that sink in. I'm just giving the guys a few insights on please, guys, don't be abusive, please. But you have a problem and you want to solve it. These are simple ways to do it. You don't have to do too much with frogs. I particularly like frogs. I used to play with them a lot when I was much younger.
All right, I allow you your frog moment.
I'm done. I'm finished, ladies.
All right, so it's Save the Frogs Day, and let me just quickly share.
Let's save all those frogs, please, guys. Did I tell you a story about me and my friend? I want to tell you a story about my friend. Come on, let me tell you this one. So I caught this night. So all right, let me go. So I don't think he's my friend anymore. But anyways, so I got this frog. He came over. My brother has a garage, and so they would come to the garage, and so I would, they'd come across my section because I had my own little business going on in the same location as well. And as they walk across and they say, "Hey, what's up, man? Long time I don't see you." I had a frog in my hand. Ladies, I had caught a little frog and I said, I'm going to pull a prank on it. And so he shook my hand. You know, the frog was in the middle of my hand. And so when he felt anything moving, I just give it to him. And he took it, and he opened his hand. He had the legs sticking out. And he just run away, you know.
It could have been, you know, if persons are scared.
I know.
But,
that's what I'm saying. I'm telling you what is happening to the frogs.
All right, so we're going back in history.
And I say, save the frogs. Don't kick them around, guys. Please, save the frogs.
Thank you for your story. Thank you for your story. All right. The background of Save the Frogs Day can be traced back to 2008 when it was founded by Dr. Kerry Krieger. Since its inception, the event has become the world's largest day of education and conservation action for amphibians. Now, frogs can be found all over the world and have been on the earth for an incredibly long time, right? And so, not a fan of mosquitoes, then this is a perfect opportunity to be a big fan of.
Sorry, I was just wondering,
tons of them every year.
I was wondering, you know, apart from me using the frog to scare my friends away and all that,
frogs eat mosquitoes.
What is the benefit of having frogs around? You know?
Yeah.
They eat mosquitoes.
To keep the bug population. So
minimum.
It maintains a sort of balance.
So in this ecosystem, God has provided for all the little flaws.
Yes, even the frog is important, and that is the message today. Even
the frogs are important. To save the frogs.
The frogs are important.
So if we have too many mosquitoes, you need more frogs around.
Yes.
You know, I remember sleeping at night, and I could just hear the thing pee in my ears. So if I just put a frog in the house, it would just get the mosquitoes away. I'm thinking, no, I just saying that. So I'm just telling our friends, guys, if you have mosquitoes inside your house, put frogs inside, mosquitoes are gone.
Yes. Of course. I said yes to that one. But as we get out of studio, we are getting out of studio. I have to share some stuff.
All right, Lady Elise.
Lady Elise. Alright, so I just want to share with you some things that are happening locally. Just gonna do a quick rundown of the news that would have been happening all around us. Now, a cyclist is in critical condition after another hit and run right here in the Cayman Islands, and this cyclist was hit by a driver on South Church Street, and he remains in critical condition. Housing block for BRAC school construction workers open, a major boost for the infrastructure projects on Cayman BRAC. A new accommodation facility for construction workers has officially opened, and of course, over there in Cayman, over here in Cayman, swift thinking scuba diver saves giant eagle ray, a heroic underwater rescue. Dive master at Eden Rock Diving Center recently saved a spotted eagle ray entangled in the fishing line near Eden Rock Reef. The ray had a hook in its mouth and about 70 feet of fishing line trailing behind it. And of course, someone was able to do an underwater save there. Family halts autopsy of 11-year-old over there in Guyana. Tensions are rising following the death of an 11-year-old whose body was found with bruises in a hotel swimming pool. The family has refused a government-appointed autopsy, demanding an independent pathologist with no ties to the government. Caribbean nations among global leaders in fight against financial crime. Some positive news for the Caribbean. Dominica, St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Barbados have been ranked among the top 20 countries worldwide for transparency and resilience against financial crime, according to the 2025 Secretariat Economic Crime Index. And of course, finally, mighty and meek say farewell to Pope Francis, an emotional farewell to the Vatican. Thousands of mourners, from world leaders to everyday citizens, attended the funeral mass for Pope Francis in St. Peter's Square. His simple wooden coffin traveled through Rome aboard a modified Pope Mobile to St. Mary Major Basilica, where migrants, prisoners, and the homeless awaited him with white roses. And of course, Pope among the people, that's what he was called, right? So Pope Francis had personally planned the humble rites to reflect his lifelong message that the church should always be a home with its doors open to all. That's just a little rundown of little news from here and there and everywhere. I want to thank you this morning for joining us for this episode of the Breakfast Hour. And we want to wish you all the best. Stay dry if you're here in the Cayman Islands. And if you're anywhere in the world, stay good, stay sweet, stay smart, stay loved, and stay calm.
Ladies, I want to thank you for giving us these updates this morning. Of course, it is indeed very interesting updates you just brought to our attention, and some questionable ones. A construction, I was thinking about that one a little bit, but I guess with time we get a chance to explore some more of these events that takes place. Master who dived and rescued that fish that had this thing in his mouth, and
Yes.
so we still have heroes of today, but they call the men, they have heroes, what they call it, Superman syndrome. Men
Well,
have,
today is Superhero Day.
I know,
on the
I know,
National Day calendar.
but that's not something that is lauded anymore. The men who have super, what you call it, Superman syndromes are somewhat shamed because you feel like you need to rescue us, that kind of thing, and it's not something well lauded anymore. But it's good to see that men are still out there who think that they are useful and can be Supermen and be rescuers just the same, and would like to go out and do something awesome, without anybody have to say, yeah, you don't have to do it, because it doesn't make any sense, that kind of thing. All right, having said that, I wanted to say, all right, hey, Elise, over to you.
Having said that, I just want to wish you all the best for today and beyond today. Continue to listen to our web radio via www.flashpointmedia.ky. Remember, live purposely. Live today as if it is your very last day. Give somebody a call, give somebody a hug, share a smile, share positivity. And I'd say have yourself a wonderful day. See you tomorrow, same time, same place.
All right, guys, same here. Can I just say ditto? And I'm done. Alright, it was a good morning, ladies. And I would say to our viewers and listeners this morning, wherever you are, have yourself a God bless day. Keep it locked right here on Flashpoint. Much more to come.
When you need ultrasound that's safe and effective, you must visit Asai Ultrasound Imaging. They're conveniently located at number 4 Chestnut Center, Smith Road, Georgetown, Cayman Islands. With experienced technologists with over 20 years experience, their friendly staff will make you comfortable while you get your procedure done. Asai Ultrasound Imaging is open Mondays to Fridays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Saturdays. Call Asai Ultrasound Imaging 345-949-2454 or 345-938-3426. That's 345-949-2454 or 345-938-3426.
I'm Audley Scott, and you're listening to Flashpoint Radio. rise and shine. Your morning boost of inspiration, news, and fun. With Mikey G, Lady Elise, and Coralie Karen, the unmistakable combination, synergized to navigate.
It's like we're running in circles, going around every day, getting stuck in the hurdles of yesterday. Don't you wanna go further, away from the fray? Let's not get stuck in our worries, we'll make our own way. Won't you come outside where the sunflowers bloom? Breathe in the air, look up to the moon. I'll meet you outside, away from the crowd. Just you and me together, we'll all sing better outside. Just us in the sky.
Two things I do know right now. One, you're listening to Flashpoint Radio. Number two, you ain't gonna keep it to yourself. Flashpoint Radio. Internet comes alive. Inspiration? In a class by itself.